Hi guys, how you doing? I'm here with a wonderful Christmas story for you guys, and it's actually by one of my favorite authors, and her name is Jan Brett, and I love Jan Brett books. Her books are always beautiful, and she usually writes stories that are old folk tales and stories that have been passed down from generation to generation. So we're going to read this wonderful one today called Who's That Knocking on Christmas Eve by Jan Brett. Look at this beautiful cover. Her artwork is always so gorgeous. Look at that. Look at that little girl. I just love the artwork in her books, and you will see what I mean. Who's That Knocking on Christmas Eve by Jan Brett. High above the Arctic Circle in the land of ice and snow, the northern lights shimmer in the night like a curtain of color hanging from the sky. Look how pretty that is. So way, way up by the North Pole, that's where the polar bears live. That's where it's all icy and snowy. The air is so crisp and clear in this northern place that one Christmas Eve long ago, a boy from Finnmark on his way to Oslo with his ice bear could see smoke curling up from a hut far in the distance. See that right there? You can see the smoke curling up far in the distance. He was cold and hungry, so he headed toward it. Far off in another direction, someone else smelled the smoke. And even though he couldn't see it, he raced off to tell the others. Now, what I love about Jan Brett's books, a lot of her books, and I wish you could see it a little bit clearer, but usually there's a main picture going on in the center of the book, and then she usually has these little pictures going on off to the sides over here of something else that's kind of like a story within a story. And if we were at the library right now, I would check out a bunch of Jan Brett books and put them on the table so you could see what I mean. But somehow we'll see that as soon as we can get together. But I want you to notice that. See how there's a story here, a picture, and then there's two other pictures going on the side. So the story is telling us that somebody else smells smoke. I think this could be that somebody else right there. And that guy looks like a troll. I'm just guessing. As the boy from Finnmark made his way toward the hut, Curie was inside feeding a fire that made the smoke that roasted and baked the fine food. Delicious sausage and fish and tasty buns and cakes were all laid out on the pine table. Sweet porridge bubbled over the fire, and apple cider stayed cool on the windowsill. So why did Carrie jump at every creak in the sod roof? And why did she run to the window when an icicle fell into the snow? I don't know. So there you see Kiri cooking in the kitchen, and you can see that looks like that might be her shadow in the window. And it looks like we don't know the boy's name, do we? But there he is with the polar bear. It was because in years past, on Christmas Eve, trolls came when they smelled the delicious aromas coming from the hut. They would pound on the door until it burst open, and they wouldn't leave until they had eaten up every bit of the Christmas Eve meal. So Kiri is kind of nervous about all those sounds because the story just told us that trolls used to wait for the smells of all those delicious things cooking And they would come knocking on doors when they would smell those smells, until they would beat on the doors till they were able to get in. So that's why she's a little nervous. No troll invasion this year, Kiri's father had said. I'm going up the mountain to watch and chase them away. And off he had gone to stop the trouble before it began. So her dad says, we're not going to have trouble from trolls this year. I'm going to go up the mountain and watch for them to keep them away from our house. Pretty interesting. So this year, Kiri was alone in the hut when she heard a soft sound at the door. Knockety, 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 knock. Someone was out there, but surely it was too polite a knock for it to be a troll. Kiri went to the door and peeked out. Now here, I want to show you again. Let's look at the picture. So Kiri hears a knock at the door. It's very soft, and she says, boy, that's kind of too soft for a troll. And look at the little picture off to the side. It shows the boy right here. It shows the boy and his polar bear knocking at the door. So it's kind of like you can see what's going on in the story in 3 different ways. And I think this is her father right here going up the mountain to look for the trolls. Isn't that neat how the author and illustrator, who's the same person, how she does that? So you've got 1 picture, 2 picture, 3 pictures of what's going on in the story. That is really neat. And like I said, all Jan Brett's books tend to do that. Boy, there was the boy. That was the boy that was at the door. There was the boy from Finnmark with his ice bear. Please let me inside to warm up, he said. I am on my way south to show off my bear for the townsfolk of Oslo. I've many frosty miles behind me and many more to go. So he said, please let me come in and warm up. Come in, Kiri said, but I have to warn you that in years past, our house has been invaded by a pack of hungry trolls. Trolls would be a welcome adventure, the boy said. So he came in, and the ice bear crawled under the warm stove and fell asleep. So there's the boy at the door. What does this picture have? There is Kiri looking out the window. And there's a picture of the ice bear curling up under the stove, going to sleep. Kiri and the boy had just settled down in front of the fire when they heard, not so softly this time, knockety knock, knockety knock. Oh, there's no one home, the boy called out. He was certain it was trolls, so he pushed the big chest in front of the door. So here's one little picture off to the side. There's the boy pushing the chest in front of the door. And that looks like Kiri's dad. Looks like he's coming down from the hill. And look at this. I see a little hand knocking on the door. Oh, boy. When all was quiet, Kiri and the boys sat down in front of the fire again. Kiri got to thinking, I wonder if the porridge is creamy enough. And she ladled a bit of it into the bowls for each of them. They had just raised their bowls when they heard a loud knockety knock, knockety knock. It was as if someone was pounding on the door with a big rock. No one at home, the boy yelled. From Finnmark shouted, and he ran to lock all the windows. So he said, no one's home. What do we got going on here? Looks like Dad is still watching for trolls in that picture. Over there. And what do we got going on in this picture? Is that someone knocking at the door? I don't know. We're going to find out. It was quiet again, but the delicious smells wafted around the hut. And Kiri got to thinking, is the sausage salty enough? She took a piece for herself and gave one to the boy. They had just raised their forks when they heard a thunderous knockety knock, knockety knock. The hut shook and they heard a loud crack. It was the cellar trap door splintering open. Oh no. Kiri and the boy ran into the animal shed and pulled the door shut just as a torrent of noisy trolls burst up from the cellar. So they didn't come in the front door, they came up through the trap door in the floor. But there goes Kiri right over here and the boy out to go hide in the animal shelter. And there's the ice bear still sleeping under the stove. There were bad-eared trolls, there were bug-nosed trolls, and each troll was more and more wild than the one before. They munched and grunted and shrieked and cackled, splashed the cider, and crammed themselves with Christmas cakes. Then, when they were through stuffing themselves, they tumbled about, pinching each other and stamping on one another's toes and tweaking their long snouts, which is how trolls have a good time. A bunch of crazy trolls. And there you can see Kiri and the boy peeking at them through the hole in the door. But through the ruckus and din, the littlest troll spied the ice bear under the stove. He took the hot morsel of sausage he had been roasting in the fire and screeched, "Have a bit of sausage, kitty," and he poked the sleeping bear's nose with it. Uh-oh, I don't know. I wouldn't do that if I were him. The ice bear leapt up with tremendous roar, and his nose was burning terribly. Growling, he chased the little troll and all the big trolls around the table, up the walls, and out the windows. Scratch them, kitty! Out go the trolls. Kiri and the boy cheered as they watched the trolls scramble off through the ice and snow, howling. So there's Kiri and the boy, and they are cheering and laughing as the ice bear chases the trolls away. And it looks like Dad's coming down from the mountain if you look at the picture over here. When he saw the trolls, Kiri's father could tell in an instant that they wanted to be as far away from the little hut as they could be. "Goodbye, trolls," he shouted as they disappeared up the mountain, and he skied home. "What a fine bear you have," he told the boy from Finnmark. "Thank you for scaring away those pesky trolls. You must come back next year for a real Christmas Eve feast on your way home from Oslo." And they all sat down for porridge. A year later, Kiri was on the mountain gathering wood to make the fire to cook their dinner for Christmas Eve when the littlest troll popped out from a snowbank. "Missy," he called in a high, crackly voice, "do you still have that kitty that sleeps under the stove?" "Oh, yes," Kiri said, "only she has grown up into a big cat now, and she has 7 kittens, all larger and fiercer than herself." Oh, she's going to outsmart the troll. "Ah!" he screeched. "Then we won't be visiting your hut on Christmas Eve." And he disappeared into a huge snowdrift. So there she is cheering to herself because she outsmarted the troll and told him that that bear, which he calls a kitty, is even bigger this year and has babies now that are even bigger as well. And so the troll got scared and ran off. So that was a neat little folk tale by Jan Brett, and I'm thinking that that comes from the regions up by Norway and all those icy countries up there with the bears. And if you're familiar where Frozen takes place, that's where the Elsa and Anna live, is up in those areas where it's real cold and icy. And everyone has pets, not really pets, but there's lots of polar bears. In Elsa and Anna's world, they have pets that are polar bears, but not in real life because they're too big. But these are based on old folk tales from that region of the world. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again sometime soon. Bye bye.